fuck up. It's time to talk business. Jared Taylor, Matt Best, and Evan Hafer proudly present Blackhearted. Sponsored by BlackRifle Coffee Company and Arson Wave.
Look at that. Look at the big babies over there throwing a tantrum right now because we smacked them in the hand.
Good old fat mouth.
Good old fat mouth. Well, I'm honored. I'm honored to have probably one of the most competent. I would put him in the top 2 instructors I have ever taken a course from in the last, ever. Actually, he's one of the best tactical instructors, pistol carbine instructors I've ever witnessed. Matt Grahm from Grahm Combat is on the show, and I do want to go on a little bit further because
I want you to go on further. Keep going. This is really good. I'm just going to remain quiet while you do that. Keep going.
And so I'll just kind of give you my experience with Matt and his skill set, which is I've taken a lot of fucking pistol carbine courses, and I emphasize that with fucking. I've taken a lot of pistol carbine courses from a wide variety of instructors, from former Delta guys to former cops to guys on my ODA. Like I don't even know how many hours of my life I have sat as a student learning how to throw rifles and pistols around. A lot. So much so that you could say that I'm an aficionado of this information. I am. Yeah. I went to one of Matt's courses, and my jaw kind of hit the floor in awe, and the fact that he's one of the most articulate, funny, and professional instructors I've ever been around, in the sense that he can take something that a standard instructor, could just swing and miss and just completely screw the pooch on, and he can architect a story around it and an analogy, and you'll be learning something and you'll be laughing your fucking ass off the whole way, and that is a hard thing to do. I thought of myself as a great instructor. Like I was like, and honestly, like before I took that course, I'm like, I got the biggest chops out here. I went to your course and I was like, all right, I'm going to go back to school now. All right, I'm going back to school. So Matt Grahm from Grahm Combat.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I think of you as a great instructor. So you and I have a background where we've crossed paths for quite a number of years, and I think very highly of you. So I'm honored to be here. This is a great podcast. I'm a fan. Nice. Curious as to where the coffee is. I thought there would be some around here, but there it is. There's a huge drip going right now in front of me because that's where we're. So yeah, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. And in this world where anybody that does a trip or works a day or has a pair of tactical pants, they open up a school and they start teaching some stuff.
I don't think you have to even work a day. I think you just tell people that you did.
Right. You just
you film yourself.
You put it on your status. Like he just checked in at like get some. Right? And you're like
at the school of hard knocks.
That's actually barbells and pistols, swinging kettlebells and shit, and running around and doing pistol shooting.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background, Matt, and kind of where you find yourself now with Grahm Combat, and how long have you had Grahm Combat? How long have you been working and doing these courses? And then what did you do before that?
About 15 years. Mm-hmm. Grahm Combat's been around. So I started in kind of a different path onto this. I started into the domestic law enforcement world, worked within that in all those capacities, counter-drug, tactics, all of those things. And what really started early, we could even go back further than that just in life. Like all of us have had interactions in life where someone changes how you perceive things and how you are able to learn things. And I picked that up early from my dad. He had been a Vietnam era guy, worked in the fire department, and was, as a leader of a group of people that are in a hazardous duty, would always come back to, like, what are the fundamentals? What are the things that change how you're doing your job to make it more efficient, better? And so I kind of grew up in an environment where that was going on. And then naturally, through law enforcement, post 9/11 Air Marshal program, and then the past 10, 11 years at DOD, it's been just a continuation of that. Graham Combat is basically, since we're all shooters and we've all been around, Graham Combat is basically I build classes that I want to go to.
Right.
Because I'm sick and tired of going to places that suck. Because I don't have the time to do that. Right? None of us have the time, the money to get into a place that's not feeding you, not giving you what you need in your tactical animal. And so that's what it are. I mean, they're directly driven by what do I need as Matt the student to get out of this class that Matt the teacher can then present.
So you learned to build a better mousetrap.
Yeah, or just learn to recognize that there's a lot of ways to kill mice. God is talking. Does everybody going to know God is talking?
That was the symbol you're disclosing secrets that you're not supposed to.
Hey, Evan, I'm curious. I want to know. You said he's because I'm always a big fan of good instructors. Because I taught for the military for 4 years. I got 3,500 hours of teaching. So I am super critical if someone's going to teach, and they'll turn me off right away if they're shitty at it. I'll start calling out all the little nuances. What did he display when you first saw him that you went, oh shit, this guy's awesome?
Well, there's a lot of different things, which is, in the military, you take a lot of courses from guys that appear they're reading off a note card, and they have this idea, this is a perception of professionalism to architect their story in a robotic way. And they continue to kind of teach a lot of things that they've learned in the past because this is the way that they were taught. They haven't thought about the material in depth to the finest grain of sand. And so when you start thinking about the draw stroke, for instance, I'll just take the draw stroke. There's a lot to the draw stroke. Actually, it's not just pulling the pistol out and shooting, right? There's a lot of detailed nuances, and when you're working with shooters at the apex of their craft, actually you can't really teach step 1, step 2. You have to be shaving tenths of a second from their trigger. You have to be looking at fractions of an inch, and you're looking at an MOA flexion and moving a group and shaving off tenths of a second for a guy that has been plateaued for maybe 2 or 3 years. You can't just do the same thing. And there are so many guys that think that just through repetition, you can get so far with repetition. You actually have to understand the information so far to the point of you've thought about the draw stroke from I'm in a car, I'm on my back, I'm on my belly, I'm behind a tire, I'm behind a piece of cover, I'm at low light scenarios, highlight scenarios, so the sun's in my face, I'm wearing a helmet, I'm not wearing. There are so many different aspects to pulling a gun, and guys that have carried a gun for a living, it's not a simple craft. And to be an artisan of that craft means that you absolutely have to be one of the most, when I say that, intelligent people on the battlefield to survive. And whether that battlefield is at home in domestic law enforcement because there is a definitive enemy, or you're overseas, your survival depends on how aware you are of your surroundings and how well you have mastered your craft. And Matt displays another dimension of intelligence when you look at that instructors just, I've been to these places, they just, repetition.
You have to be free to speak, too, and that's the other thing. And I'd go to your question in that I don't want to be a good instructor. I don't want to be a great instructor. I don't want to be the greatest instructor he's ever seen. I would rather be a good teacher of Evan, because a teacher has a vested interest in your learning. An instructor is going to stand there and reread what they learned. Like, here's the drill sheet, I'm going to read the drill card. And a teacher is going to sit there and say, what does Evan need? Because I've been with you in that environment, and it's one of those where you have to be able, and I continue to use the term feed, you have to be able to continue to feed each individual person. Otherwise, they're not getting nourished. They get nothing out of it.
There's a huge parallel to that, what you just said, to business, because this is a business podcast. So there's certain companies, like massive companies like SAP or Concur. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. And so we'll take Tyson Foods, for example. They've maxed out their ability to grow their business in the protein sector. They own it. So they can only grow by a fraction of a percent. So what they do is they go out and they start acquiring other businesses in the grocery store space where they can literally place that product. And so that enables them to grow their businesses by more than a fraction of a percent, which is what you said as a former SF guy, and you're shooting. You're only increasing your skill set by a fraction of a percentage. So you found another store in the grocery store that can increase your skill set by maybe 1% or 3%.
Well, I'd go back to what you said with building a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
I don't look to build a better mousetrap. I look that there's different ways to kill mice.
Right.
And that's where I am.
Right.
Right? I'm a mouse killer. So I don't care whether it's
Yeah.
a trap or whether I got to choke that bastard. Like we're focusing on killing mice. And when we focus on killing mice, when we focus on not just making chicken and Tyson, we can make anything.
Right.
All options are on the table all the time.
Yeah. So if you're a pro, like let's say you're at a pro varsity level, in your job in the military or whatever, you could there's opportunity out there, and what Matt's creating is an opportunity to increase your skill set by percentages.
Right.
And doing it in different ways through different tactics. So there's very much a parallel in high level business with what Matt's doing in the shooting world. If that makes any sense, or I'm just rambling or something.
No, I think it does.
It does.
Yeah. So tell us about just the tactics and training industry, like lay out the landscape for me. We kind of touched on a little bit where everybody with a pair of tactical pants that's ever looked at a pistol or a carbine, they've got a course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And that goes to one of the things that we can touch on in your initial opening is in talking, most training and most classes we go to, the people are one question deep. That's it. If it's not written on the drill card, they don't know where else to go. So when a student asks, hey, what do you do next? And they're only one question deep in their response, they have nothing for it. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. It's interesting because as Grahm Combat is a training company, Grahm Combat is also a product development company, and Grahm Combat is a consulting company, and Grahm Combat is an advisory company, and Grahm Combat has me sitting on, Fox News in the evening talking about things. So I don't put us in we do training. It's
Right.
almost like your soft mission. Yeah, I'm doing direct action now, but I can do many other things. And I think just systematically approaching training as if I went to, there's a drill that we do called the haiku drill, right? Because a haiku is, right, the Japanese poetry of the
It was
5-7-5. 5-7-5. Yeah, right. Yeah. So now we're gonna go deep here, right?
Let's hit it.
So, as we're doing this, and we do this haiku drill with a 5-yard line, 7-yard line, 5-yard line. So now I'm able to give you, so Evan shows up on the range, he's standing there, and he's like, hey, how are we going to start the day? Hey, we're going to start the day with some fundamental dry practice. And you're going to start at the 5-yard line. You have your lane from the 5-yard line to the 7-yard line and back to the 5. I'm going to give you about 5, maybe 10 minutes. Work on what you need to work on. I know what I'm going to lead you with, and I know what I'm going to teach with you, but you know where you are, and you know where you need to be. So giving someone that creativity time, even sitting down outside of that and saying, write one. Like at some point, go learn how to do something else and let it translate to the fact that right now I'm carrying a gun. Because gun fighting isn't gun-centric, right?
Right.
And when we focus on it being gun-centric, then anybody who has a pistol and a pair of pants and some tight little body shirt
And a beard.
Yeah, exactly. Or not a beard. I'm not a good beard grower, so I just got to go with what shows up. Is going to be jumping into that arena trying to teach a class. And they're one question deep.
That's really funny
of a
because
beard that you have.
I had a friend today that said he wanted to start a blog called "This'll Get You Killed," where he reviews all those guys out there teaching you bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the big argument about printing. We were talking about this the other day where people are like, hey, man, is my pistol printing? And I'm like, you're wearing a fucking T-shirt that says, pry it out of my cold, dead fingers. You think you're printing? Right? Like, how about, like, you literally printed something on you that says, I'm going to try to beat your ass. Yeah. Sure you are.
Which is a funny story in itself, which I'll digress for just 1 second. So when Matt showed up at the range, he was driving a Saab. You remember that? They were driving a Saab station wagon. And he was wearing like a Tommy Bahama Hawaiian shirt. And,
to have my Birks on?
Yeah,
my
Birkenstocks. Yeah. And I thought,
it's a great shoe.
And honestly, when he first like jumped out of the car, I was like, what the fuck, man, like, all right. And I hadn't met you up to that point, and then you started going into it, and actually, you just like ripped a couple of rifles out, and like, all right, slapped your hands together. Let's fucking go. Let's get this on. Let's start. And I felt like I was in a. I really felt like I was in a physics class, and the crazy professor just like walked in and was like, "Let's do some numbers, kiddos.
Let's
throw
cocaine.
Which is hard to do if you're only one question deep, because it's not just baking and mixing. Yeah.
So not printing, there is no way if I would have seen like Matt walking down the street, I would never have known he was carrying a pistol. I wouldn't even expected it. I would have thought like that guy just walked out of a Grateful Dead concert, and if I was looking to buy some hallucinogens,
He's on the way
he might have some.
margarita hour.
No, but he
Going to get my state assistance money.
Matt reminds me of the way he presents information, and just from limited interaction in the past hour with you, he reminds me of certain professors that I had in college and grad school that I could fucking repeat every single word that they said in lecture.
Yeah.
And you literally sat there and you listened to every fucking thing they said. Because he's got a very academic
Presence.
yeah, and like the way he presents information is very, very clear.
He looks wise.
Which is the opposite of the way that I
Looks wise. Not is wise, but looks
do.
wise.
He looks like a grandmaster chess player that could just like fuck you and all your friends up real quick and no one would know.
In chess?
Well,
He looks. I
thank
bet you
you.
this motherfucker can fuck a chessboard up.
I can. I can.
I know.
It is.
It's like
I shoot it. I
it's
just
like
shoot at it. And then I'm like, checkmate that, bitch.
It's like in Charlie Wilson's War when he walks up and the dude's like playing 6 games of chess at one time. He's like, hey, "Don't move that fucking queen."
6 games, yeah. I remember middle school, 6 games, yeah. Okay, now, yeah. I do more now.
With 7 PhDs.
Yeah.
And it's not just training. So, with Graham Combat, you've got a few other things. So you talked about IP and licensing IP, which is, you're thinking way more in depth down to that finest grain of sand. So you're actually trying to invent things that will improve the circumstance. And
Absolutely, whether it's from the training side or from the product application side, because we talk a lot, everybody. We're all out here at the SHOT Show, and that entire building is full of 100,000 people that talk.
yeah,
Right? And everybody's going to talk and do all those things, but rarely do we take that and put something forward. Rarely do we take what is the issue that we're dealing with and how do we make it more efficient. And that's what it comes down to in business and life and relationships is am what I doing efficient? Is it meeting the goal? Because if I can efficiently get my product out to you faster than the next person, then I'm going to win.
Right.
And so when it comes down to tactics or comes down to products, that's what drives all of that. And you have to, I think what's been successful for me is when I stood in front of you and taught, everything that I had learned up to that point, I was willing to give away, willing to let go and not be tied to, because it may not be the thing that lets you become a better shooter. Right? It's not about me giving the information, and that's what most instruction is. It's instructor-based. Hey, look at me. Look what I've done. I'm going to now teach these things. And that's not what we do in Graham Combat. We say, what do you need? And I'm going to get you there. It's referred to as the guided discovery learning model. I'm just the guy. You show up at the edge of the river. I'm just the guy taking you across. And we're going to have this little bit of a journey together, and you're going to come to the realization that you're doing it. Right? You're doing it on your own. You have to possess that information. So when it comes to product design and then ultimately product development, like that whole business cycle on that is huge. Like everybody has ideas on things, but how are you going to monetize it? How are you going to take it to market? What are the steps to get that? And then is there a need? But if you address it from a standpoint of a core fundamental of making something more efficient, not making something totally new, and then having to get somebody to say, yeah, I guess that's a good idea, I'll buy it. No, take something that already exists and make it efficient. Find those gaps and fill those gaps. You talked about draw stroke. What am I going to do stepping onto a range with a fully functional career soft guy like yourself? And because you thought this when I stepped out of the Saab and the Birkenstocks, like, what is this guy going to do for me?
Right.
And standing there with you, this is where in a standard drawn presentation you can start to cut fractions of time. Because if over the course of doing something, it takes, give me a number.
5 seconds.
5 seconds to do something. If I can cut you down to 4.5, I'm more efficient and I'm going to get it done quicker. So if I can take a half a second out of my draw and a half a second out of my sights and a half a second out of that recognition, then that compounds. And now the fight that I'm in is so much quicker than what you're in. We talk about the three-dimensional world we live in, and we don't live in a three-dimensional world. We live in a four-dimensional world, and the fourth dimension is time. And where you become efficient and where you lead in front of other things is mastering the time piece. We're all going to do the same job. I'm going to do it faster. Well, and because the other guy was wearing a shirt that said I have a gun underneath here. So, right, so I'm cheating a little bit. But
So how long did it take you to develop your business?
I'm constantly developing my business. I'm nowhere near the end of what I'm doing.
To where you realized you were going to make it?
I don't know that I'm going to make it now. I'm making it today. Every day, there's the saying of you die every day, right? You're born every day and you die every day. And that's exactly the way that I have to prove to this man every single day on the range that I can still do it. I can't remember who the professional basketball coach was, but there's a professional basketball coach that has a comment about coaching, and he says, every day, at the end of the day, I say, what have I done today that's going to allow them to invite me back tomorrow? And that's what I do. What did I give you today that's going to allow you to invite me back?
Based on the way that you look at things, I would say it's probably Phil Jackson from the Lakers, because he's kind of a hippie, and he drove a Saab. And wore tie-dyes. Phil Jackson wears tie-dyes.
That's true. Yeah. And likes Montana.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in.
There you go.
And surrounds himself with winners, all those things that are good.
Yeah.
But surrounding yourself with winners that can what? Work
Make you
efficiently to take it to the end piece.
But also, too, you've mastered these skills by direct application, too.
There is that, except what I would say is I've mastered nothing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
I got a better
yeah,
understanding of them because I'm deeper than one question, but I'm a pretty good shooter, right? I mean, I can hold my own in the stress pieces. It works out pretty well. In the events that I've been involved in my life that have involved getting shot and shooting, I've done well, right? I'm here, we're chatting. Yeah. So
The other guy isn't.
it's worked out.
It's worked
No,
out.
he's having the same podcast for the other side. You're like,
No, it's interesting you said surrounding yourself with people that make you better. And like that's why I'm drawn to these guys so much, is because my motto is, if I'm the best thing we got, we're fucked. And I'd rather be the
I thought that too.
I'd rather be the least qualified, lowest man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to do, not being a vet and hanging out with these dudes, is I like to surround myself with people that I would rather kill myself than complain to or complain in front of. Like I hunt a lot and I've been all over the world doing some kind of crazy hunting stuff, and I've been really fucking cold and really wet doing that. But then I think about my partner Todd, who's a former SEAL, and I will cut my legs off before I ever complain to a SEAL about being cold and wet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
You'd like cut your tummy open like in Empire Strikes Back and let him get in you and get
A
warm, and you'd be like,
tom-tom, yeah.
yeah.
Or you take a guy like Evan or Matt Marshall or Matt Best, and it's like my fucking feet hurt. Those words will never come out of my fucking mouth because there's nothing I could do that could ever even like come close to what they've done on their feet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thing.
Why am I not in that category?
Well, you're in the Air Force. And I went to Air Force boarding school, which makes us brothers.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Yeah, well, you called bombs and told them to drop bombs out of planes. Yeah, you don't have to walk anywhere to do that. Or get cold and wet. You don't even know how to swim.
All right, that's true.
Well, I honestly, I think that it's an incredible journey. Honestly, the piece that I think is the takeaway from this is it's always going to require hard work.
Yeah.
It's always going to be hard.
Absolutely.
And regardless of whether or not you're working on a fulfillment mechanism, like how do I become more efficient? Because this is one of the things that I translate into my business every day, which is if I can become more effective and more efficient, and then I can drive the number down and become more effective and more efficient in the sense of I'm shaving cents instead of, in the range a couple years ago, I was trying to shave fractions of a second. We're talking about like the difference between a 0.15 and a 0.12 split on an A zone target from the 5-yard line. I would celebrate that like
Yeah. when I was at the Air Marshals, I went to the range one day and we were doing a qualification and I hadn't shot a perfect score, which kind of one of the things that I did there was always consistently shoot well. And I think out of a 300-point course, I'd shot like a 299, and I think my wife found me like sitting in the closet, despondent, with like a gun in my mouth, and I'm like, I'm no good, I can't be here, And but it's the same thing. The difference in the fight, if we look at it from a physics standpoint, which we all have to live under, a .15 and a .12 aren't even in the same game, right? But we can condition ourselves to believe, hey, that's fine, right? It's just it's just, no 3 difference. Okay, which is good. You could drive this company every day and not worry about that 3 cents. But when you look at what it means, so in the operational world, it means life and death. And in the business world, 3 cents in the scope of what's going on is millions of dollars. And you're like, well, now do you care about it? And you're like, yeah, well, then I guess I'll get there fucking early. Right? Like, I mean, that's...
it's
It's so true. And honestly, just having you here is what's really kind of identified that for me, in the sense that I would celebrate those fractions of a second, those fractions of an inch, and that's what I was chasing. I was chasing, a different scenario, and then, chasing a more advanced scenario, and then, okay, well, now it's not on steel. Let's put on the masks. Let's get into a sim fight. Let's fight. Let's get it on. And it wasn't about, for me, it's not about winning. It's actually about improving, because what that did is that told me, it would give me a little bit more confidence, thinking that when I find, because it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Mm-hmm. When I find myself in that scenario, I want to be able to know that when the car door opens or whatever happens downrange, I've given every fraction, every ounce to mastering the art, because it means survival. Yeah. And in business, it is no difference.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
means survival.
And in business, it can be construed that it's even worse.
Yes.
Because in that fight, when we pull up and we're like, hey, contact right, right? We know within the scope of where we are, where that threat is. And in business, every single person on this planet is trying to screw you. And it's like, you know what? I just went from maybe this 40-degree window that I'm going to cover because Evan's got the other one, to nope, there's 7 billion people that all want what you have. Well, then now how dedicated are you to doing it better? Right. And that's what it comes down to. And so that's why when you talked about mastering stuff, I'm a master of nothing, right? I'm a continual student. I continue to work on the craft because I think, yeah, I got it a little better than the next guy, and same with the business. We're not anywhere near we're going to be, because I recognize that what Graham Combat is today can be entirely different tomorrow.
Do you take your quest for greatness with Graham Combat and your courses and all that stuff on the other side of the business? It's not just shooting and manufacturing and teaching people and whatnot. What about like monetizing it and the ops side and the delivery and your contracts and things like that? Do you take the same approach to that side of the business that you do behind the gun? Absolutely, because if you look at it as, if you're true to it, then it has to be. It can't be single focused. There's a discussion, I don't know that you and I have ever had, Evan, but it's a discussion that I have in the training world that we're in, of mindset and combat mindset. Right? And your audience, your people that are involved in this, it's one of those things where I don't believe in limiting the phrase to combat mindset. Combat mindset means when combat's going on, I'm going to have a specific mindset. How about we just agree it's mindset? I'm just not pulling a trigger right now. Right? We're having a podcast, drinking some coffee, having a great time, but could we do it? Right now, if we had to go, could we go?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. Right? And we'd be giddy. Yeah. But the other, but yeah, it's better than grown men being giddy.
I would be constantly asking, "What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah, you'd be like, "My feet hurt. My feet hurt. I can't go."
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell anybody that.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things where it's like you have to be able to translate it fully across your person, or you're not any part of it ever. Right? It's the pants and the shirt that somebody put on. Right? Until they take it where it's not the pants and the shirt. It's not about that. It's about that integrated within the fabric of who you are, and the way you approach everything is done that way. Otherwise, some things in life are going to succeed, and other parts are going to be just a dismal failure, and you're going to sit there and wonder why.
And there's a lot of shooting instructors that are very accomplished dudes that have done a lot of crazy shit. They're terrible businessmen.
Yeah.
You know, because all their focus is the gun and in running the gun. It's not the other side, because if the other side's not working, you're not going to be able to teach and run the gun anymore. There's a lot of those dudes out there, man.
There's a lot of those businessmen, you know. I mean, hey, you can shoot fast. All right, well, you can do a very monodimensional task over and over and over again, but that doesn't mean that you understand your business in depth. Doesn't mean that you can grow it. It doesn't mean that you can hire and fire and manage and task. And there's a million different things that go into business. There are a million different things that go into being a competent gunfighter. It's not just shooting on the range. Like, sure, you can shoot an IPSC target, you know, bulls at 25 with no time limit. That's fantastic. That proves that you're a shooter.
I think it's one of those things, though, too, that I'd put out to you, that it's if we're only focusing on what am I going to be as a gunfighter and what am I going to do when my product is on the shelf, and we've not focused on anything prior to that, right? We talk about the X, right? We're getting hit on the X, and then we're going to go. Here's our objective, and we're going to do this, and here's our after action, and here's everything we're going to do after contact on the X. You know what? There's a huge segment of before the product is on the shelf.
Right.
And there's a huge segment of before the gunfight. And if I've never addressed that, if I've just glossed that over and been like, hey, man, we'll be fine once I get the shirt printed and get them in front of people to just click add to cart, you're like, no, you won't be, because it's not one-dimensional. It fills every little piece, and you have to be addressing all of that. One of the things that we say about it is, if I got a gun in my hand, I've already lost this.
Right.
Right? Like, this is not good. Now, I'm going to sustain it, and I'm going to come out of it on the other end, but I shouldn't have to go to a gun. I shouldn't have to walk into an ambush to be like, damn it. They were doing it. Who knew? Right? Like, who knew? 20,000 years of caveman drawings up through recorded history figured out these mofos are going to be right over there. Right? Like, we never saw it.
Who knew?
Yeah. So it's one of those that it's all of that forward piece. Everything before the X is what differentiates success on the X.
Right.
And I think people miss that.
How important is having experience in firefights and war and gunfights to teaching? Maybe that's a bad question.
No, I don't know. And I'll field this one just from my perspective, which is wisdom is key, right? So, and wisdom has pillars to it. And the way that I've looked at this is that you have to have experience. That's one of the pillars to wisdom. So you can be intelligent, right? That proves one specific pillar, which is I'm smart, okay? You still have to be formally educated, and you can be a smart guy, but if you've never been formally educated or indoctrinated or taken a look at things from another person's perspective, from just doctrinally speaking, you still have to have that. It's a conventional education. So intelligence, education, the articulation. So from an instructor's point of view, you have to be able to digest this information, be intelligent, and then be able to put it out back into the environment.
Apply
in a
it.
way.
You have to apply
You have
it.
to apply it. The experience is what hammer forges all that shit together and tells you, oh, there are a few things in here that I was learning, and I always use CQB to this. The first target we ever hit, I did everything that I was told. Like, for years, I'd trained for this one event in my life. You know, things go loud, and I'm on the top of this roof with no magazine in my rifle because I dumped it on the breach.
That's a way to do it.
It's one way.
I mean, you like a challenge, right? Like, let's do this. How would they do it with muskets?
But, you know, after years of doing this, it was like I was carrying 12 mags and 4 frags and fucking a helmet and all kinds of weird-ass shit. And then I think the last time I went out in Afghanistan, I had a mag in my back pocket. And I'm not saying that I was dumping everything. I'm saying I was stripping everything off that wasn't necessary for me to accomplish my mission, that would weigh me down. That experience forged all of that together. It is crucial to survival. And I say it's just one piece of wisdom.
They talk about how wisdom is where knowledge meets experience. Like, where those two things come together, then you're wise in that. And once you're wise in that one area, it's recognizing where it translates to the rest of your life. And then just take that principle, because you don't need to relearn that principle again. And realistically, in the empathetic learning that humans do, you don't even need to experience it, right? Like, we don't need to start making concentration camps again to learn how horrible that is. So it's like, okay, ding, not going to do it. And then we move on to the next piece. So it's a ability and recognition to be able to translate that across everything you're doing. And
You sound like a really squared away guy, and I've said that a couple of times. What is the one component of your business and the development of your business from day one to where you are right now that has been the most difficult for you? I know what are the challenges that you face daily, weekly as a business owner in developing your craft and being the best that you possibly could be?
not losing sight of me, not losing sight of who I am in all of everything we do. And that goes back to meeting those time standards, to be able to do the trips and do the work, to everything else. People typically don't know who they are. And when you don't know who you are, it's very difficult to stay on a path. So in this world right now, we're at SHOT, obviously, and I spent half of the last 2 days, instead of looking at all these things I want to buy and experiencing all these things that are going to be neat to get on my kit and my stuff, in the hotel room typing up a new paper to go out and license some more IP. And it's one of those things where, in knowing who I am and what I want to get out of this, it makes everything else very clear, right? It's that we all see through different filters, and being able to see cleanly lets us know, like, hey, where I am, is this hippie enough? Am I doing it? Is it hippie enough? We're good?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm going to braid my beard like here. It's one of those where knowing me allows me to be very clean with everything else.
Right.
And so it's the hardest thing to do, because in business, like we said, there's 7 billion people on this earth that just want to pull you down. And it's easy to do if you don't know who you are.
Is that something that you do? Stay true to who you are?
Well, I mean, I'm still on a path of discovery. Like, I think that I know, or at least I'm trying to be center mass. I mean, there's a pollution factor in this, in the sense of, you have a combination of variables that are always kind of being input. So that could come from all these external variables. So you have to try to do, at least from my perspective, you strip away these things and say, what is truly important, right? And what am I truly trying to accomplish in this? It's a reminder, and you and I have done that, which is, once a year, twice a year, whatever it is, I have to get a reality check, in the sense of, I go to the most remote part of the United States to center up, basically, and tune the guitar chord, so to speak.
But it's definitely not a vacation, because we don't do that.
No, I don't take vacations. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, yeah, you have to look inside. You have to be a little bit more introspective, because if you don't, you're not going to resonate and push things forward with the velocity that is actually required to be successful. You're just never going to gain that inertia. You're going to push 360 degrees, and you're going to stay in one fucking spot.
Yeah.
But you're never going to drive forward as well as you can.
I mean, how effective would you be if you never calibrated your GPS, right? You don't even know where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing will take you anywhere, but you have no idea where you are. So it's one of those where it's like, you got to know that first.
Right.
So.
All right.
Well, let's finish this up, Matt. Where can they find you? So,
Graham Combat, GrahamCombat.com.
are you on
For those
Instagram?
seeking
We are on Instagram.
Ultimate enlightenment.
It's all the same. Graham Combat, Facebook, Graham Combat.
Perfect.
Do you still have the sob?
Oh, who wouldn't have a sob in Birkenstocks?
Man, I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much.
Thank
Matt, for
you.
showing
Thank
up.
you.
Yes. Yeah,
I
that was
appreciate
amazing.
it.
It's an
I
honor.
really enjoyed talking to you, man.
From
Thank you.
Las Vegas, Baker Levitt, Matt Grahm, Evan Hafer, and JT. We are out.
Black Rifle Coffee Company, along with Arson Wave, would like to thank you for tuning in to Black-Hearted. Have a great fucking day.